What's going on YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to talk about how I go about grading cards. So we'll discuss the tools you need and then also what to look for. So first off, what you're going to need is you're going to need a light. I use a desk lamp, and I've got one linked down in the description for you to check out. So just a cheap desk lamp provides a nice shine so that we can really evaluate the cards. You could also use your phone if you have something to hold it, the flashlight on your phone. It also wouldn't be a bad idea to have a magnifying glass, preferably one with a light on it. And I've got one linked in the description. This will help us to check out some flaws that maybe we're a little unsure of or we want to check out in greater detail. Next, you need some soft sleeves. So I've got those linked in the description. And then these card saver ones. So what these are just, they're kind of flimsy. They're not that hard, rigid, but they're perfect for grading because the card can slide in. It'll keep it protected during shipping, but also then the grader doesn't necessarily need to reach into a top loader and damage a card. This kind of bends, and it's really easy for them to get cards in and out. So this is what's recommended by PSA. So I've got those linked in the description. Is a microfiber cloth, and these are linked in the description as well. So those are going to be the tools you need. So let's get into how we go about looking at cards. So I've got these two LeBron Revolution cards that we're going to take a look at today and see if either of them meet the requirements for grading and what I think they would grade out at. So let's take a look. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you handle a card is to not handle it on the surface. So hold it on the sides and hold it loosely. So I'm not pressing too hard here, just enough so the card doesn't fall. So you're going to want to evaluate 4 areas: the surface, the corners, the edges, and the centering. So let's start off with the centering. On Revolution cards, they don't really have a border, so it's very hard to determine centering. However, if you have a card such as Prism or Topps Chrome, you can determine centering a little easier. So let me grab, this is a Topps card. So as you can see, there's borders. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look and measure up the horizontal and the vertical borders. PSA allows for a tolerance of 55-45 centering on the front and still be within a 10. So you'll still see some cards that may be off-centered but can still be a 10. When looking at one of these Revolutions, hard to judge, and generally, unless it looks like it's really off-centered by either the name or the logo or something else, centering isn't going to be too much of an issue on cards without borders. Next, you're going to want to evaluate the surface. So this is really where that light comes into play. So if you tilt a card into the light and kind of move it around a little bit, you can see some surface flaws come out if there are any. You can also see if there are any fingerprints or anything else on the card that could cause some damage or could cause some lower grades. What you're going to want to take is a microfiber cloth, and these are linked in the description as well. And even if you don't see anything, you're going to want to gently brush the card off. There might be some fingerprints, there might be some dust, there might be little particles, anything like that. You just want to get it off before you send it in for grading. Next, what you want to look for is the edges. So on modern cards, you're generally going to see some pretty clean edges. Sometimes if there's full bleed, you'll want to look to see and make sure there's no chipping. If you're looking at some of the vintage cards, some of the O-Pee-Chee series, those actually had what they call rough cut cuts. So it'll look like there's damage on the edge, but that's actually just the way they are cut. And the grading company or PSA generally will not deduct for that. But look at the edges. This one looks pretty good. And then finally, the corners. So this is something when you're sending, especially to PSA, you really want to take a look at because they can ding you hard on. So what you're going to want to look, especially on some of these cards that maybe have some white edges or corners here, is it would be very hard to see if there's actual corner damage. So you're going to want to get really close and look and kind of tilt in and out of the light. Maybe use your magnifying glass and make sure none of the corners are pushed in. There's no dents or dings or anything like that. Corners that will have a full bleed, those are a little easier. Sometimes you can tell if they're nicked or if there's any type of issues there. PSA is very strict on corners. So when taking a look at this card, I don't see any obvious flaws with the naked eye. Tilting it in and out of the light. Looks pretty good. So this would probably grade a 10. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your soft sleeves, and when you put cards in soft sleeves, make sure you're not dinging any corners. So take the soft sleeve, open it up a little bit like that, slide one corner in, and then slide the other without nicking or damaging the corner, and guide down. You'll see some people, they might actually cut off corners. Then you'll want to take your card saver one. Again, all you have to do is pull this back a little bit and the card slides in. So we put it in a little bit. Then we'll grab the edges and just gently push down. And there it is. Nice, easy, ready to be graded. When their grader goes to take this card out, they'll hold it the same way and then just go grab it. And this way their card's not going to get damaged because they're not going to have to try to reach into a top loader. And also during shipment, when these cards are shipped, if they're in a top loader, this corner, any of these corners might be banging up against the top loader, whereas if they're in this card saver one, it's not going to move around at all. The only thing you want to make sure when you mail these in is that you protect them somehow with either cardboard or within a box somewhere where they can't be actually damaged, because again, these are not that thick, so they're a little bit flimsy. So if there was an issue, if you were to just put this in a bubble mailer or something, it could bend easy, but it will protect the card. So let's take a look at another card, see if we can't find a flaw here. Just taking a look at this, holding in the light, surface looks good. Edges, don't see any issues with edges. Oh, but on the surface in the back, don't know if you can see it well, it looks like there's a small surface indication there. So that is going to deduct from the grade. And looking at the corners, these three corners look good. However, this corner, you can see a little bit of white showing, so that's going to deduct from the grade as well. So based on the criteria, this would not be a PSA 10, and also would not be something maybe that we would want to consider grading if we're just looking for 10s or looking for something that we can flip. So not every card is going to be great, but just knowing what to look for, knowing how to handle cards. After a little while and after a couple submissions, you'll get used to kind of how things look and how things grade, and it'll get easier over time. So let me know in the video or in the comments if you have any questions about grading. Again, links to all the supplies that I use are in the description. You don't have to spend a lot of money on supplies, guys. This can be done really cheaply, and just have a good eye. Take care.